Well, good evening, everybody. Good evening, Celbridge, and good evening, North Kildare. We have made it to the final of our GE 2024 election interviews. It's been a hell of a week for me. It's been just really interesting. I've been surprised several times this week with the candidates and some of the perspectives that we've been able to hear from them. Before we get into this evening's interview, I just want to take a moment to thank everybody properly for the support. And to everybody who has sent me PMs, I'm not arguing with you or anything like that. I haven't been able to get around to them all, so I'm sorry about that. But it's been an incredibly busy week. Tonight, we are speaking with Réada Cronin, TD. She has been a TD for Kildare North since 2020. She's a member of Sinn Féin, as we all know well at this stage. She was, previous to that, a county councillor for the Maynooth local electoral area, and that had been since 2014. So she's been an elected rep in one guise or another since 2014. So quite a bit of experience there. Réada has worked in the disability sector, gaining insights into the challenges faced by disabled individuals, family carers, and Section 38 and 39 organisations. I don't know offhand what they are, but I think it's care homes, nursing homes. Let's ask her. She was a founding member, one of the founding members of the Maynooth Community First Responders, and has demonstrated a commitment to local health initiatives. She was appointed the Sinn Féin spokesperson on defence in 2023. She has advocated for legislation on electricity and gas standing charges, a ban on winter disconnections, streamlining Garda vetting, and statutory parental bereavement leave. So let's meet her. Now, before we get into this interview, I want to let you know, as we are all fully aware, Sinn Féin are in an unusual position in this election. They are likely to be a large party in government afterwards, and they may be central to government formation talks. So I'm really pleased to have someone of Réada's calibre with us. I intend to challenge here and there with Réada, as I've said to all the candidates this week. You know, I don't bite, but I might nibble. So, but Réada is a very open person and someone I know you'll enjoy hearing from. So without further ado, Réada, if you're with us, will you say hello, and to anyone who doesn't know you, introduce yourself.
Hello, how are you? I'm Réada Cronin. I've been the Sinn Féin TD here for North Kildare since 2020. I was the first Sinn Féin TD in almost 100 years, and I am delighted to be running again and to be joined in the ticket by my constituency manager, Caroline Hogan, who you'll see just behind me here. We're hoping to, we've gone from a 4-seater up to a 5-seater, and we're hoping to get 2 Sinn Féin TDs elected, because nothing is going to change in this country until we get run enough candidates and get Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael out of government.
That's a great place to start on the theme of change, Réada, because as I mentioned to another candidate earlier in the week, I think everybody is well able at this stage, because we're living and breathing it here in North Kildare. We're well able to describe the problems, because North Kildare presents that exact mix of the social infrastructure deficits that we are all experiencing: traffic, childcare, GPs, school, paediatric dentistry, additional needs supports in schools, SNAs, mental health services for children and for adults, really the whole gamut of social support services. And yes, we do need change to the problems there. However, in fairness, some of the big issues that we have faced in the past are starting to be addressed. You can't deny that housing, delivery has increased. I know it's not where it should be, and I know Sinn Féin disagree with the whys and hows and the amounts. I appreciate that as well. But any member of government that is elected goes in with the best intentions, and yet they get stuck in the mud very quickly. I would like to hear from you on how exactly Sinn Féin would make that change.
Okay, are you referring to the permanent government when you say that?
I don't have a view on exactly where the problem is. I don't know if it's with the ministries, the deputies and the ministers, for example. I don't know if it's with the permanent government, so the senior public servants, for example, who'd be looking after these departments. I don't know if it's tangled up in law, if for legal reasons things can't go faster because there's procedures now baked into law. I don't know. All I know is that I have to fight for a school place for my child, and so does every other parent in town, and that no matter what service I try and access, even if it's for me, a grown-up or an adult, sorry, I'm used to speaking to my 4-year-old and calling myself, I'm the grown-up, I can't get it without a fight. So to answer your question, I don't know where
Really and truly, you shouldn't, as a parent, as a citizen in a republic, you shouldn't really have to know the ins and outs of all this. But it is important. I'll tell you the difference between Sinn Féin and other parties. We had Michelle Gildernew was the Minister for Agriculture in the North, and she was actually at a wedding when the second case of foot and mouth happened in England. And she remembers getting the call from the civil service from the Department of Agriculture to say that there was a case of foot and mouth in England. And she said, is there anything on its way over? And they said, yes, there's a shipment minister now. It's due to dock in the next few hours. And she said, it's not landing. And they said, I remember she was telling me, they said, oh no, Minister, that's not how we do things. You know, that's not the protocol we follow. And she said, I'm the minister. The buck stops with me. It's not landing. And, you know, she was thinking of the whole 32 counties at that time. She didn't follow the rules or the protocol from the department. She protected Ireland, and she, within a week or two, Ireland was deemed foot and mouth free, and we were back trading as usual. So you do need a government, you do need a minister who is on the side of the people, and who is prepared to stand up and make the final decision and be ready that the buck stops with them and take responsibility. So that's one thing where we would be prepared to do that in government. We really want to get into government because I know, as you know, that this country is crying out for change. And we, you know, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have held on to the reins of power for the last 100 years. They're happy to ping pong it from one party to the other. After the 2020 general election, they actually had to come together for the main purpose of keeping Sinn Féin out. But that's what they had to do to hold on to power. The first thing you have to have if you wanted to form a government for the people, and in a republic, that's the way the government should be, is you have to have the will to know what needs to be changed and to stand up to departments or whatever it is, to actually make that change. So that's what sets us out from other parties.
Well, that is. I have to tell you, I hand it to you. That is a refreshing, clear answer to the question. So it's a case of get in there, remember you're in charge, assert yourself wherever you need to assert yourself, and not break, but certainly bend rules if you have to get stuff done if it's in the interest of delivering for the people. And I have to say that is a message that I find very attractive. So I thank you for that, because I didn't know what you were going to come back with in respect to a tricky question. Our audience is ticking up. We have our first comment in. Erin wants to know what makes Sinn Féin different from other parties. I'll give you a moment on that, if I may, in a moment, just to say that the comment is there. Folks, if you're here with us in the audience, hit that like button, say hello to Réada. This is a direct connection here now. If you want to ask a question, Réada is here with us, and it's an opportunity we won't have again this side of the election, sadly. So please feel free, don't be shy. So Réada, so thank you for going back. Thank you for that clear answer, and a very good example in terms of Michelle Gildernew and her response on foot and mouth. Erin's question, let's take that one. What does make Sinn Féin different from other parties? I mean, there are ideological differences, there are personality differences, I know that much. There are differences in the manifesto, and we'll come to some of those. But what's the key themes that you would reach for if you're describing how to distinguish Sinn Féin from, for example, Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael?
Well, there's a very clear difference here behind me, and both the posters of our two candidates are up. I know that in a lot of parties there'd be blood on the floor if there was a candidate being added 2 weeks out from an election. Whereas I was actually delighted because, first of all, Caroline, she's worked with me for the last 4.5 years. She manages the office on her own there Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. She knows the departments inside out. She knows how to ask the questions so that we get the answer that we need and not waffle. And she's ready to hit the ground running as a second TD for North Kildare. I think when I got elected in North Kildare, we kind of gave a bit of a heart attack. I'd like to finish them off this time now and get 2 elected. We go out canvassing together. There's not that kind of rivalry between running mates. Because I know that things aren't going to change until we have a Sinn Féin-led government. And I want that change. I want that change for my children. I want that change for my neighbours. I want that change for everybody in North Kildare and the whole country.
Well, it's true to say, I mean, in the last election, I think if Sinn Féin had run, twice the number of candidates, I think you might have come home with twice the number of seats. But the polls at that time weren't quite where they are today. So I took a look at them earlier on just to see where were we a few days out from the last election, January 2020 or January, early February, somewhere like around that. And you had just in the polls, you had just crept up. So there was a little bit of a forecast that Sinn Féin were going to kind of do very well, perhaps unexpectedly well. At the moment, it's a bit more competitive.
Because I didn't check.
Did you not? Yeah, well, there had been a couple of signs, a couple of surprise polls, and then there was a big discussion: was this an outlier, or is Sinn Féin really going to, rise up here? And so you did. And I was standing in the count centre for those counts. I remember the look on your face when the counts came in. Another one of those lovely moments. But I suppose what I'm getting at now is it is a bit more competitive now. You have added a second candidate in. It's lovely to know that it's been such a welcome development for you and for your campaign. And obviously, Caroline Hogan is somebody that you trust and who knows the ropes, because she has been your ropes in terms of the administration and the office support. And just as you were answering the question, we had another question: why should people vote for the second Sinn Féin candidate? But you have actually addressed that, because she's been your right hand person. Another comment in from Ida. She says, Ida Cusson, former councillor Ida Cusson, I beg your pardon. Hiya, Ida. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have been in government for so long now, yet they are offering solutions to the ongoing problems, as she puts it, with health services, housing and education. How will Sinn Féin change health services for the better? For carers, for example, we need change. We're looking forward to a new government model. So can you speak to that comment from Ida?
Yeah, nice to hear a message coming in from you, Ida. Absolutely. David Cronin is our health spokesperson, and he came down to Naas the first time he came down to Naas General Hospital around 2 years ago, because he was reaching out after COVID. He was reaching out to do proper research on a proper health policy document. He met with local pharmacists. He met with healthcare workers. And he brought all that in. He had a real consultation with workers into how we could make things better. And he compiled that. And, like we were in the opposition. I have a secretary and I have a parliamentary assistant and myself. So, there's a lot of work. We don't have a department behind us to do all the research and all that. So he did all that research. And we launched the policy there around 3 weeks ago. There is a podcast. I'll put it up into the feed after this, actually, because I launched the policy here in Kildare on KFM there around 3 weeks ago, and I do go into detail. But first of all, you always have to, if you have a problem, first of all, address the leaks in the system. My daughter Evelyn, her friend, qualified as a nurse there a couple of years ago. And a lot of the friends who she studied with, a lot of them have gone to Canada, have gone to Australia, have gone to America, and they're contacting her and they're saying, the work conditions are brilliant. So we have to improve work conditions for people. We also have a lot of primary healthcare centres have sprung up, but what we don't get is the staff in them. So we have, like say in Kilcock, we got the great new primary healthcare centre. All the doctors from around the town moved to the primary healthcare centre, but we didn't get extra doctors. So Sinn Féin is going to offer a permanent job to any healthcare worker that qualifies. If they're good enough to pass their exams and come out fully qualified. Very cold. My mouth is a bit.
It's a frosty night. You'll be forgiven for that. Don't worry.
Well, we need to revolutionise mental health. We need to make sure that we can offer qualified young people a permanent job in our health service, so that they can feel that they can stay here. We also need to start building houses, because so many of them are saying they can't afford to rent, they can't afford to work in Dublin. The hours are long when you're working in the health service, so we have to start building houses. So that's one thing we want to do. But
one big change. And for carers, I want to keep on Ida's point, because she asks questions that her comment has summarised a rake load of the emails I've gotten and the PMs I get from people. What about carers? They're practically forgotten. And I took a slight bit of offence nearly at the budget, because after having the family and care referendum, you know, where the message was so clear that proposal wasn't good enough, then to have the budget come along, and unfortunately Sinn Féin were on the wrong side of that referendum support, but we won't dwell on it. But I'm really talking about the budget, that there was just kind of measly payments. You know, another comment from someone. In fact, I have it here
Yeah, we
somewhere.
want to completely abolish the means test for carers, because most carers are women, and carers are working 24/7, 7 days a week. And I believe that they are entitled to be paid. They're entitled to their pension. So after that referendum, you know, Sinn Féin met the carers, we talked to them, we listened to them, and we're going to abolish the means test. And I thought in the last budget actually it was a bit shameful that the carers were left to last, and that they weren't going to get their increase until I think it was next summer.
That's right. Always an afterthought, and because they
went up that night, but
the additional thing about carers is because of the nature of the work that they are doing, they are caring for someone maybe in the home and maybe around the clock, or certainly, you know, it's a significant personal investment of time and energy that carers give. It's extreme actually in very many cases. Like, by the very nature of what they're doing, they are not going to have the same power in mobilizing as, for example, I'm plucking this out of the sky, but like if there was a bus driver's strike, or if there was a pilot strike, or if there was even a doctor strike or nurse's strike, you know, that kind of a way, because they are leaving a job that has defined hours. To go on strike. Yeah, but carers, they need people to actually shout for them. They're knackered. They're absolutely wrecked. And you can't blame them for being quiet and then having a problem with how they've been treated, really. I have another comment along a similar vein. The giveaway budget, this person called it. Old and cold is what our elderly can expect for winter. And God forbid you'd be sick and need to go to the hospital. That's another story. The reality is our elderly in Celbridge pay €336 of LPT November 2024, which includes the increase that Kildare councillors added to this punitive tax. Shame on them. And that's for a 2-bed bungalow. So the fuel budget handout for 2024 goes straight back to revenue as a tax. Now, that's not strictly related to carers, but there are a lot of people caring for people in that age bracket who need that support. It's a section of society that just fades from relevance, it seems, in terms of the way the government is treating them, switching slightly from carers and how they're treated to how we are looking after people, looking after the elderly and treating things like LPT and means testing. Talk to me a little bit about Sinn Féin's approach to that whole cohort of society, our most valued people, the people we came from, our grandparents.
Older people, yeah. And in a lot of ways, when you stand back and look at the big picture, when you look at the credits that are going out, the energy credits, Sinn Féin introduced those energy credits, and at first Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil said, "Oh, can't be done." And they did introduce it less than what we wanted, but in a lot of ways, without decoupling the price of electricity and gas, you know, they're basically using the Irish people as a conduit to get money into the energy companies. So, you know, there's no reason why our electricity should be as expensive as it is. But because it's coupled to gas prices, that's the reason why it's so high. It should be far lower. So without addressing that, they're basically just using the citizens as a conduit to get money to the energy companies. The energy companies made billions in profits there last year. There's no need for that. So you know, that's one thing that Sinn Féin would be prepared to challenge. We've been talking about it for the last 4 or 5 years around decoupling the price of gas and electricity. But of course, our older people have to be looked after. Our older people have to. My mum, she hurt her ankle there 2 weeks ago, and I said, you know, we better call an ambulance. And I went, she would not allow me to call an ambulance. This was a Sunday night. I had gone up to her to say, "Bye, Mammy, I won't see you until after the election." And she would not let me call an ambulance. And I was on to my sisters and my brother, and they were saying, "No, she has to call an ambulance." And I said, "She won't allow me, like, she's still my mother. I still have to do what I'm told. So I got her up to bed, looked after her, I was certain at this stage that there wasn't a break. And I ran home to get my clothes because we actually had the launch in the morning, the election launch in the morning. So I went down, got my clothes and came straight back up to her and stayed the night with her. But older people shouldn't be afraid to call an ambulance, because she should know that when she goes to hospital that she'll be taken care of, that she'll be sent, that she's not going to spend 3 days on a trolley, 3 days on an armchair. So we have to have respect for our older people, and that's certainly something as well that David Cronin has really focused in on in our health plan.
I have to say, David Cronin does seem like somebody who's got a hold of his brief,
Fantastic. Yeah, we had him down here in the office as well. He met with a lot of the parents of the scoliosis and the local scoliosis advocacy group here. There's not everybody who's not party affiliated would agree to going into your literature. But I was delighted. I said to Una Kitely, do you mind if I use your photograph? I'll blur your kids' faces. And she said, no, I'd be delighted to have my kids in there with you.
Oh.
Because we had such a great day here with David Cullinane, and she's met Mary Lou as well. And, I really appreciate that.
It's a symbol of another broken promise, isn't it? The situation with scoliosis sufferers. I beg your pardon. I always trip over that word.
So I was with Kenny there yesterday, and the scoliosis advocacy group down there are very disappointed that he didn't meet them.
Oh dear. He dodged a meeting with the scoliosis team.
He wanted to meet with them and he didn't have time.
Okay. We'll move before I have to keep my own manners. That sort of thing, that particular broken promise is something that just strikes a chord with me. We have
when I meet older people who are waiting for some kind of a hip operation or something like that, they always say to me, you know what, those children with scoliosis, I'd let them in first. I'd let them before me, even though they're in agony themselves. Like, it is shameful that we have children in agony.
And to hear that some of them are inoperable now, having waited so long, it just... I would say don't get me started, but I suppose the whole point is for me to sit here and get started. I'll keep going. Look, I tell you what, guys, I have topics selected to talk with Réada about. The chat is going gangbusters here, Réada, and it's one of those opportunities to connect people directly with their questions to you. So if you don't mind, I'd like to tune into them. First, Ida has come back. Where is she gone? Thanks, Réada. I suggest that more home care hours would also help carers. A few hours home care aren't sufficient. Carers are at their wits' end. Okay.
Yeah, we have to help increase respite hours as well.
Respite hours and home care. Thanks. I hope you feel your message has gotten across, Ida. Susie says, oh, an interesting new angle. How will Sinn Féin support business owners? It sometimes feels business owners are vilified for not paying fair wages, etc. God, you're dead right. I have a whole conversation to have with you on this now since you bring it up, and it wasn't on my list, so thank you for this, Susie. But it's hard to break even sometimes, she says, this is as a business owner. People are vital to a business, but if it can't cover costs, including wages, then it needs to increase the price of the product or employ fewer people. Réada, it really is as simple as that. And I think because of the amount of crises, the country has been through, because we had the global financial crisis, we had the European sovereign debt crisis, another wild swing in financial markets affecting everything from the cost of our debt to our bonds, fiscal policy, the whole lot, the oil price crash, Brexit, COVID-19, the war in Europe. We've been through all this stuff. And the repercussions of that have been austere periods in our fiscal management. And I'm being fairly generic in that. But what has emerged over the last 10 to 15 years is this business of the greedy profiteer. Now, I don't think kind of the landlord's reputation has helped. I don't think bankers' reputation, as a former banker myself, I don't think bankers' reputations has helped. I think there are plenty of examples of businesses gouging and profiteering. Yeah. However, to this commenter's point, there has to come a time when, as a country, we recognise that if we want to have any services and if we want to have small family-run independent businesses, that they're going to need a little bit of help, and costs are through the roof. So how will Sinn Féin support business owners?
Yeah, listen, and that's something that's really important to Sinn Féin, you know, our small Indigenous businesses, the local SMEs. You know, I think that government so far have always cared more about FDIs than the small SMEs. So, you know, Sinn Féin are going to support the VAT reduction to 9%. But not to excluding hoteliers, excluding the large hotel groups, but food and cafes. Because in a lot of those small businesses, small companies, they are employing local people. They're you know, it's the kind of place that if you get a call from school to say Sean is sick, they say, okay, God, Jesus, go and run off and collect him. You know, there's relationships built up in these small SMEs. So, you know, supporting them is it's hugely important. Now, Louise O'Reilly is our spokesperson on enterprise and workers' rights. And, you know, she brought out a package. She brought out a package there around PRSI rebates as well for small and medium enterprises. So that is something I will look that up afterwards. I didn't go into huge detail on it, but
that's okay. Yeah, I think we might alienate half the audience if we got into the real nitty gritty. But
because they're the ones that we depend on all the time. We all wanted to have the local shop when you know you need your milk. We all want the local cafe that does the home cooked food. Like these are the bread and butter and the heart and soul of our towns and our communities, our villages. So yeah, absolutely. Sinn Féin
I think any homegrown enterprise that is that in any area of business that is out on its own, like I often think, and I never did it. I'm obviously I'm not working at the moment. I'm hopefully about to be back in the workforce now soon, you know. But I was always a PAYE worker. Do you know what I mean? I've never had my own business, but my mom did. She had the business that fed us and educated me. You know, put clothes on her back all the way up. She did it by herself for the most part. You know, I watched that business support and nourish our family and her hard work with it. And she's just in a state of despair at the moment because she can't move on. She can't officially retire or, you know, whatever, without serious consequences. And it's just because things have gotten so tight. And she is in the early years sector, which, Réada, as you know, is a particular bugbear of mine. And it leads me on to another question. Susie, I see you've come back in. I will come back to you if I can. Another person has asked, what will you do to make things better for children? And she doesn't mean childcare. So now she's not talking about the support on the childcare side or supporting parents. She's talking about making things better for children. And I'll go so far as to say, I've seen the comments from this commenter across the week. And I think what this person is referring to is the whole suite, the experience of childhood is now doing, you know, whatever your parents set out for you. I'm talking about in a young childhood, while your parents freak out about not being able to access everything from kind of sports and social stuff because of the cost of it, or additional needs supports in school, SNAs. Why is there such a gauntlet to run to get access to any of these services? I'm sure you saw the headlines about sensational kids down in Kildare during the week. Did you see that story? Disgraceful.
Yeah. Let's go there. It's, you know, they do great work and they're not for profit. Listen, you know, childhood is short and it should be sweet. We like here in Selbridge, we have one playground. I know there's a plan for a second playground. In Maynooth, there's an old playground in Kilcock. They have a temporary playground for the last 3 years. They were actually going to close when they were building the new community centre. They were closing the playground there, and all the councillors were in agreement that we had no playground for a year while the new one was being built. Until I put my foot down, and along with the parents locally, we fought back and we said, "You must be joking. We need a temporary playground." You know, kids. For 3 summers now, the children of Kilcock haven't had a decent playground to play in. Maynooth's playground, you know, it was great to get it, but it needs to be upgraded. Selbridge again, you know, they're putting in building all these houses, and people want the amenities to go with them. And that was what LPT was meant to be. We were sold the local property tax as that it was going to be for playgrounds, for libraries, for all these extra luxuries, right? But what it actually is spent on, it's spent on footpaths and it's spent on roads. Yep. Because what the government did was they subtracted from their block grant that they give to councils the amount that was raised in that council by LPT. So it wasn't for libraries or playgrounds or all these skate parks. It was for the roads and footpaths, and that's what it's paid on. Each councillor is given a small little bit that they can kind of decide what it's spent on, to keep them sweet. Well, it never kept me sweet. I did put money aside for playgrounds, and things that needed to be done, but it's a joke. You know, it really is a joke. You know, you don't pretend, you don't sell something as being that is going to bring the extras to your community and then actually withdraw that money, subtract that money from the block grant.
That's right. The LPT has become life support funding for the council and not, it doesn't have the impact that it should have now. And as you've said, it does contribute to some extremely worthy causes, and it's not to take away from that at all. But it should have been so much more, as you've said. I want to touch back in on a couple of these
with the LPT.
Yeah, it's a big issue. And you know, they're not even spending correctly in KCC, so I don't see that there's a lot of trust with their activity either. A clarification on what was meant by the welfare of children. It covers from the commenter schools, recreations, child protection and support, assessment of needs, foster placements. So thanks for that. Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, the reason that we have gone from a 4-seater to a 5-seater is because of our population burst, and that is because of young families coming to live here in North Kildare. And with young families come children. Like it's not rocket science. They do their census. They know the children are going to be coming. Like, build the schools, for God's sake. You know, some of the new schools that have just been built, and they're already oversubscribed. You know, Maynooth every year in the 2 new secondary schools in Maynooth, they're oversubscribed. It was Prosperous and Clane there this year. I'm already getting people worried that their children are so much on the list. We have the 3 schools in Celbridge that need to be done. You know, we have to kind of stop governing on the hop, and we have to start planning ahead. And that's what Sinn Féin want to do. We have to start planning ahead, knowing what's coming and doing the work. And that's something that Mary Lou will be really insistent on.
I have another comment in. I'm going to hit if you could give me a brief answer on this, because I want to move on to a small couple of other topics before we wrap. Niall is in and he says, are there any plans in place for affordable homes for those people living on a single wage? 4 times my salary, I can't afford a home unless I move to Limerick or other counties. This is a big thing, because you know, anybody who suffers a divorce or a split up in partnership where the 2 incomes have been supporting the home quickly finds himself a number on a growing list of those in difficulty with getting housing. So are there plans in place for affordable homes for people living on a single wage? Is there a policy you could talk to me about on that for now?
Yes, there is. Yeah, Sinn Féin plan to build 50,000 affordable homes in the lifetime of this government. We're going to deliver 300,000 new homes, including 50,000 affordable homes. And when I say affordable homes, I mean affordable homes. You know, we have the affordable rent there in Leixlip. I think it was 1,400 for a 1-bedroom apartment. And I remember arguing with James Lawless and him saying something about New York, and you know, Leixlip is great, but it's not New York. We need proper affordable homes. So yes, there is. If you're earning up to 90,000, you can apply for an affordable house, and that will be your home. You will own the home. You can extend it. You can improve it. You can do whatever you want. You can you can build extensions. You know, if you get planning permission, all that. But it will be your home. You can pass it on to your children. You can pass it on to your grandchildren. Yes, we do have plans, because there's a lot of people who marriage breakdown and they need to be able to buy a house, or even single people. Not everybody wants to get married. Not everybody wants to buy a house with somebody else. You know, back when I was young, you were able to, you know, I remember you'd say for a couple of years, you mightn't go out for 18 months.
Yeah, it was as simple as that for a long time, wasn't it? Yeah.
House prices have gone up 50,000 euros in North Kildare in the last year alone. Like, how can young people keep up with that? I have 4 kids. One of them, he has a great job. His wife has a great job, and they've managed to buy a home, and they weren't able to afford one in North Kildare. But the other 3 are still living at home. Now, you shouldn't have to be in a relationship to be able to afford a home and have a great job. So Sinn Féin do have an answer for affordable housing.
Okay, and we are hitting topics that have been set out in various policies that Sinn Féin have released. Now, I completely confess that I'm a nerd and I have looked at them. You'd be obviously much more familiar with them than I would. But will you pop a couple of links in? You know, if you get a chance to those just to thoroughly answer the question, because this is the thing, people are taking a chance on Sinn Féin. There are some people who have never voted Sinn Féin before who'll be doing it for the first time, and everybody's a bit nervous and skeptical. Beautiful. I have a question for you, and it's a challenge on the housing plans. And it's the same challenge that I would have, by the way, for Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil or anybody, to be honest, talking about housing. Where are you going to get the workforce? Where are you going to get the brickies, the plumbers, the electricians? Like, it's all well and good promising houses with respect. But you know, you can't get a bricky loving our money around here. If something's being constructed, you really want to be working for BAM or one of these massive big walls, you know, one of these big companies that have a big fleet of
Back to the small and medium enterprises, you won't be surprised to hear that I invited Owen Byrne down to Kildare as well, and I brought him down to Kildare County Council, and he met with the housing executives in Kildare County Council, and what he basically said to them was, what do you need from the government so that you can start building houses again? And he incorporated that into our housing plan, so that we're ready to hit the ground running. You know, SME builders, a lot of them, they're lacking the funding to start building building houses from scratch. So we want to be able to give them the financial backing. The government should be able to give them the financial backing so that they can start doing that. Again, with local authorities, they can start building the 75,000 social homes. You know, where we are at the moment, the people who should be housed by the council are the Fine Gael, they introduced the HAP scheme. So that is eating into the private market. So say my kids can't afford to rent a house, you know, it's very expensive to rent, say, a Maynooth for students as well. It's a big issue, because people who should be housed by the state, by the council, are ebbing into the private market, and that's what's increasing the price.
I'm going to cut across you. I'm going to cut across you, Réada, because I want to get to the nub of the question. Where are you going to get the brickies, plumbers, and electricians?
There's actually slightly more people working in the building industry now than at the height of the Galway tent when we were throwing out houses. There's actually more people working in the housing industry now than at that time. So the workers are there, but you know, we want them building homes. There's no need to be building apartment hotels. There's no need to be building more hotels. We have homeless people living in hotels, and people who are tourists living in Airbnbs. You know, it's the system needs to be straightened out. So we have the workers. We also something Mairead Farrell and Rose Conway Walsh was working on in higher education as well, around speeding up apprenticeships, so that people can work on the job as well and qualify while they're on the job with an experienced qualified bricky, electrician, whatever.
Thank you, and thank you for I know you were having a thought and I dragged you back to the question. Thank you for that. I did it because I'm short on time, and I did it because I'm responding to people here. And there's another one in. What about long-term tenancies? What about people who want to rent long-term and just kind of can't do it because you're always on this 1-year contract, and everybody who's renting kind of lives in fear their landlord's going to ring them one day and they've a child going to college or something, and you're out. Anything on long-term leases or anything like that?
Yeah, you had somebody on there earlier on saying that they suffered a marriage breakdown and they want to buy a house. Well, I actually don't own a house either. I'm renting. I'm divorced and I'm renting. So you know, that's something that kind of hits home to me as well. And I'm really lucky with my landlord. Now with my landlady, but I've been in that house for 10 years. I'm happy with that. But you know, we need to professionalize landlords. This mom and pop thing, and I don't know where they thought the name of mom and pop sounds so
American.
It's not very Irish. Mom and dad landlords. We do need to professionalize the service, but not the way that that Fine Gael in particular, Michael Luna did by bringing in the cuckoos and the vulture funds to be these long-term rents, because the prices they're charging are off the scale. People can't afford it. A lot of them are leasing them to councils, and then they have to, the council in 25 years have to give the house back to the these cuckoo funds. So we need tenants need that security of tenure, that no fault evictions. You know, if they're not once they're paying their rent and there's no antisocial behaviour, they should have security of tenure. And in the case of a landlord person who owns a house becoming homeless, that should be the only way that you should be able to evict somebody from a house if they're not paying their rent, or if they're breaking the law, basically.
Okay. So we've hit that. Now that there are more comments there, and to anybody who I've skipped or haven't been able to swing into your exact comment, I'm sorry about that. I'll have a look at them and see if I can maybe put them into a digest for Réada. Or Réada, if you have someone that can come in and have a look, we'll see how we go. But sorry guys, I need to leave those comments there for the moment, just to move on, because we've got 7 minutes left maximum, and I have to talk to you about Castletown. Now, I wanted Jack Chambers took a pop at you at Sinn Féin over the funds and the taxes and the budgets over the next 5 years, and Sinn Féin's model of delivering stuff. There's been so much. Then there's the tax policy. I wanted to get into that as well. But what can I say? The audience has spoken, and it's my job to kind of stick with those subjects that were there. So I'm sorry, we'll get to those another day, Réada. But on Castletown. Right now, I'm sure you knew there was a question on Castletown coming. This wouldn't be much of a Salvage Politics if we hadn't been talking about Castletown this week. Should the OPW be replaced by another body to better deal with facilitating access for the public to its lands?
Well, rebranding is a thing we do a lot in Ireland. You know, we had a motion at our Ordash there last year that would give just the summer last year, that would give the OPW the right to CPO land if there was an obstruction to access to a national monument. Okay, Castletown has a national monument, and access to it is prohibited from the public coming from the M4. So Sinn Féin have agreed that we would legislate that would give the OPW the right, or whatever you want to call it. We can rename it and rebrand it if we want, but let's just call it the Office of Public Works, or the Public Works Office.
No, you're right, yeah. Oh, OPW, yeah. Well, look, I mean, I don't know about this rebrand. I mean, I love the idea that another major political party is looking at empowering the state to solve the problem of Castletown, because it's a very practical thing, and it speaks to the practicality even in the answers you have given me this evening on various subjects that have come in completely random, not from me. My beautiful script of questions is useless.
I'm knocking doors all the time, and I never know what person is going to be behind the door and what question they're going to ask me, or how things are going to be. So that's really how I'm treating tonight.
You're well used to it. Well, it's good to hear that was a motion, and did it get passed, or what's this?
Passed overwhelmingly, and Angus Study is delighted with as well. And that would give, because the OPW are batting it over to the Kildare County Council. Kildare County Council are batting it back, and I'm sure that it wasn't lost on the residents in Selbridge to remember that before the local elections, Kieran O'Donnell was all heel ball. I remember he used the expression that he was going to be like a dog with the bone to make sure that we had access to Castletown. And straight after the local elections, he fell off a cliff. And for 14 weeks, I was writing to him, I was ringing him, I was emailing him. No answers from him. And just then, before, of course, Fine Gael I'm sure knew when the general election was going to be called, just there around 4 or 5 weeks before the general election was called, he was back like the dog with the bone again. And like, he's a nice man. This is nothing personal to him at all. But we had our 2 meetings, 2 or 3 days notice, called back into Castletown House for a meeting to discuss. I remember you were at that meeting, and we all I thought it was just an introduction. Then the meeting was over. I said, nothing happened. Get on with it. You've had 14 weeks and you have done nothing. Nothing has moved. So fool me once, shame, what is it? Fool me once,
No,
shame
shame on
on
me.
you. Yeah, on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And I hope to God that people in Salvage won't be fooled again by Fine Gael.
Well, there is also the question within Castletown of OPW deflecting and moving away from its responsibilities around access by suggesting that a road is where it isn't. Not to confuse everybody, but they said, sure, there was no public road through the Castletown estate. Sure, that was through Donnacomper. This is last year. Those lands are owned by KCC, and KCC haven't yet answered that point. So I am in search of our government to stop gaslighting us and give us a matter of fact statement about the location of that road. And I'm asking for your commitment to pursue that with the whichever group in the community is banging on about it. It doesn't have to be Save Castletown Committee, it doesn't have to be anybody, because there's a whole, as you know, there are so many different groups and everybody kind of up in arms on similar themes. Can we pursue the truth of that matter and make sure that the public record is corrected?
100%.
Great. So you are in favour of CPOing the land. You are,
Yes.
You're going to support the final establishment of truth on that question of the old road.
During the local elections, I had Mary Lou for around half an hour.
I was there. I was there.
We did have an hour at the end, but I was promised a half an hour of Mary Lou, and I brought it to Selbridge. So
She's been to the, she has walked, for anybody who doesn't know, she has walked Lime Avenue. She was speaking with people there and met the crew. Now, a lot of politicians, in fairness, have been down to the gates and have walked Lime Avenue. There are a few notable politicians who haven't done it, but I suppose, you know, we have to respect everybody's diaries and calendars and all the rest of it as well. Do you think that there's a
always been there for people to Selbridge, so
you have been, and you've been very available to me, and we've been through some painful moments on different topics in politics, I suppose, and you have always been there for me. There's something that you said to me once, Réada, that really stuck with me. I said to you, well, listen, very, very early on, so it would have been September, October, November of last year, and everybody was absolutely spitting feathers at the time about Cal. We still are, but it was a different mood at the time. And you rang me and you said, I hear there's a meeting on, where is it on? And I can't even remember which meeting it was, you know, but I was saying to you, yeah, come down. I don't know where it's going to be on, but you know, it could be a bit feisty, I think is what I said, something like that. And your response was, I'm Sinn Féin, I'm very at home with a people's protest. Those were your words, and they really, really stuck with me. And I have to say, I think that you've lived that for the last year regarding Castletown, so fair play. We are at 50 minutes. This is one of the longer interviews because I just couldn't stop those comments coming in earlier on. So look, folks, this has been a conversation with Réada Cronin TD, standing in North Kildare alongside her colleague Caroline Hogan, looking for your votes on November 29th. Réada's pointing. I probably have the camera because I'm the one speaking. But Réada is pointing at the poster behind her. So have a look now in a moment when she speaks, and you'll get to see Caroline Hogan in the background. Réada, I want to thank you because I know that you came in from a canvas. I know that you specifically left a canvas to come and speak to us tonight. And I want to say thanks for that, because I know the canvas time is so valuable, especially given the complexity and the newness of Caroline's candidacy as well. So thank you for making time. It's very important that we had you here, and grateful for it. I'd like to hand over to you to give a parting word to everybody, if that's all right, and then I'll wrap us up. So over to you.
Okay, didn't know the format this has gone, but listen, I want to thank you, Trasa, for the work that you do in Selbridge politics. It really is fantastic. During the local elections, it was great as well to see all the candidates. I would ask people to come out and vote for 1, 2 for Sinn Féin. This is a really great opportunity we have this time we've gone from a 4-seater to a 5-seater. And I would love that 5th seat to go to Sinn Féin. We won't let you down. You can hold us to account. And we would, I just can't want to, I'm very tired. But I'd love if you'd come out and vote Sinn Féin. You know, we need to build homes for our young people. And we need to give our young people hope. Like we were talking about our children, we need to give our young people hope. that they can stay and live their best lives here in Ireland. And Sinn Féin.
Well, look, I don't think anybody at this hour on a Friday night after the week of canvassing that you've had, yourself and Caroline, I think you'll be forgiven for being a bit cold in your office, which you came in from. I know you came out of traffic to get into your office and turn the lights on and get in front of a camera for me. And I know you did it lickety split as well, because we were in touch by WhatsApp, you know, checking on time and that. So thank you for that. It's cold and miserable. I'm sure you're absolutely exhausted. Are you going to put your feet up, or have you more to do tonight?
No, I've planned the canvas for tomorrow now, and I've got a poster team coming down as well. And I know everybody watching hates posters, but something happens to politicians. I hate posters as well. I'd love if we were restricted to maybe 500 posters in a 5-seater or 300 in a 3-seater. But your activists go crazy and the poster wars start, and they're all out putting up posters, and you have people ringing and saying, there's no posters on this road, and well, we need more posters here, and other people saying, it's too many posters here. I'd love to be rid of them, but
that's how it is. That's life on the campaign. Only another week to go before Friday the 29th rolls around, and you can get them all done.
Yeah, and it's important that we have democracy, and it's only for a few weeks they'll be down, and we always take the cable down, the cable ties down too, so we'll leave it time.
Good to see a job done well. Well, folks, that is it for tonight with Réada Cronin. I'm eternally grateful to all of the candidates who came and joined. I initially had 10 slots available, and 9 of them were filled, which means that basically everybody, you know, with the exception of one candidate, I had hoped to have the candidate from Aontu on, and it just didn't work out scheduling wise. But I feel very lucky to have been able to host our candidates from across the range of speakers that we've had. And thank you to everybody who has been watching. This is a pet project from my box room. I've obviously got a fake background on, but this is me sitting in front of my laptop with my baby in a room asleep beside me, and my 4-year-old downstairs, and the husband keeping him engaged while I am up here talking to you. So as a personal note of thanks, thank you for being in the audience. Let's vote. Vote. And Réada Cronin of Sinn Féin is looking for your vote next Friday. Caroline Hogan is also looking. Réada, I have the mic, and I can still see Réada, and I can see you guys. You know, I can see my 2 screens, and Réada saying, and Caroline. Consider it duly noted, Réada. With that, I'll sign us off. Ihawa, thank you for watching.
Take care.
Take care.
Stop like the boo.